Hello, hello! And today we're going to be looking over the 1.10 patch notes for Legends of Runeterra. And, I mean, we already knew this is going to be a pretty small patch. We're expecting a more major patch in 2 weeks, so we're going to take this with a little bit of a grain of salt. I have seen some, people going crazy over how small this patch is, but we have to remember that these patches will happen, internally, before everything even drops. So this patch was probably already done, 2 weeks ago. And we're just getting it now in the live server, right? So let's look at exactly what's happened. I have read over it, but I want to give you guys my thoughts on this. So the first one, we have adjustments to the difficulty of Aurelion Sol's level up requirement. I mean, look, he is pretty easy to get out right now, and he's kind of just like an instant win condition. Probably needs to be tuned up a bit. I don't know exactly how much you would need to tune up the level up requirement, but I do agree he should be a game ender. If he flips, he should be a game ender, but right now it's a little too easy to do. So kind of hoping, I don't want every control deck to just be an ASOL deck, So I'm glad to see that's being looked at. Adding escalation to Hush's repeatable cost. So for people who don't understand this doesn't mean that Hush would be like 3, then 3, then 3. It would be more like 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, and so on and so forth. So that's a pretty nice change. I do think small changes would be the best way to go about this, instead of just going crazy with them. And then grandfather removal, giving more hugs. So, I mean, we could just assume that's going to be a buff. Grandfather removal isn't too bad of a card. Sadly, the existence of Hush does mess up grandfather removal quite a bit, but I think a little bit of a buff will put removal in the right place. But now, ignoring the 1.11 preview, let's actually look at the 1.10 changes. So the first ones that we were promised is the Ezreal and Lee Sin changes. And looking at Ezreal, it went up from targeting enemies 8 times to targeting enemies 10 times, which is, I mean, look, like I said before, these changes were done internally quite a bit before. So, we were just in a meta where Ezreal was very dominant, and way too dominant, and we know that. So, Ezreal being bumped up from 8 to 10, I do think Ezreal's still playable. He's going to be in a very, very rough spot this metagame. And, he might not just be playable this metagame, but coming out with the new cards, I'm sure Ezreal will find a home sooner or later. He's like the combo finisher of the universe. He's still a fine card. And honestly, he's still a fine value card too, right? So, I think Ezreal's still going to be fine. I think these changes were warranted. And which we will see later now in the patch notes, the interaction between Riptide Rex and Ezreal has been fixed. And so Ezreal will still evolve very easily when paired with Bilgewater. So I think this is a perfectly fine change. I see nothing wrong with this, and I'm happy with this change. I think it's a healthy change for a long-term health of the game. Now, Lee Sin, this was going to be a hard one to gauge. Lee Sin went down from a 6 cost to a 4 cost, which perfect. It needed to happen. Come on. I'm pretty sure, maybe 1 out of every, 100 of you have actually played Lee Sin, right? There's been all of one Lee Sin deck that's semi-competitive, and that's the Lee Sin Terra deck variant right now. But aside from that, Lee Sin has been lackluster at best. And he's such a cool design card. I really like his design. But he's been really bad. At 4 mana, he's at least a dude, You don't have to build a whole deck around him. You could just play him as a dude. But he does the same thing. When you cast your first spell, give me Challenger. Second one, Barrier. Awesome. So he goes down from 6 to 4. Health also going down from 6 to 4. And he's staying at a 3 attack. And his level up goes from 7 to 8. So I think everything here is absolutely perfect. You lowered his cost. You lowered his health. And you raised his level up requirement. Perfect. Awesome. I think Lee Sin will see some play now. It's going to be hard to tell exactly where he's going to be. I do think the Lee Sin Tarek deck is going to probably be pretty decent, maybe. I'm interested to see if that's going to work, or if we're going to see more of a mid-range list with Lee Sin kind of just there as a pseudo-finisher, or just as a decent body where you just pair with a lot of spells with Eye of the Dragon. So that's going to be interesting to see. The level up is the exact same. Goes from, 4 mana 3/4 to 4 mana 4/5. Exact same effects. Still Dragon Rage's enemy. But the huge thing here is Lee Sin's signature spell now is Sonic Wave. And Sonic Wave, while it's not the greatest card in the world, it is a card you do put in Lee Sin decks. It's so much better than just having Dragon's Rage in your hand, which does nothing. It really is the only, use Dragon Rage ever had was to sit there and end a game if a game went way too long against, control opponents, which is fine at times. But you'd much rather have Sonic Wave 99% of the time. And, it's something that procs off Lee Sin. It's something that procs off Eye of the Dragon. This is a really good change. I do think Lee Sin will see some level of play. I don't know if he's hyper competitive, but we will, it has to be determined. I don't know where exactly I would put Lee Sin right away, but I would like to see if the Lee Sin Tarek deck does actually do well in the future. And now we have our followers. The first one is War Chefs. Man, this is a card that's been played in every Demacia mid-range aggro variant since the very beginning of the game. And it is going from 2 power to 1. Same exact effect, same cost, just going down to 1 power. So the interesting thing about this, I see a lot of people saying this is a dead card, and I don't think that's true. So and it would be if there were other 2-mana cards you could run. War Chefs is just the best card in that slot, with the second being what, a 2/2 with Tough, which is okay, but this card just does way too much at the moment. Especially if you're playing like a Lulu variant, you're gonna need a support unit, and it's still like decently statted in terms of health, so it can generally take a trade. But I do think this is kind of a nerf that was somewhat warranted. It's like a weird nerf to have, and maybe just because more cards will be dropping soon, and we're probably gonna see like other options open up, and they want this to be strictly a support option and not just a card you just throw into any mid-range Demacia deck. So I am pretty happy to see this change. I do think this is a good change. It was kind of needed, personally. I'm tired of seeing Fight is cooking, and I'm pretty sick of this card, to be honest, so pretty happy to see this card get a little nerfed. Flash of Brilliance. I do like how they mentioned here that what would a patch notes be if I had to change the Flash of Brilliance. And it's true. I know many people are tired of Heimerdinger. I'm not. I personally, I just made a video not too long ago about like my Heimerdinger deck, and I was even running the 4-cost Flash of Brilliance, and I did pretty well with it. So I'm pretty excited to see how Flash of Brilliance works again at 3 mana. I do think it'll work pretty well. I'm excited to see if maybe like Heimer Karma is gonna work, or if it's gonna be like a Heimer Lux variant. I don't think Heimer Targon's gonna work all too well. I think that one's kind of whatever. But Heimerdinger might actually be a deck again. I don't think it's going to be tier 1 or anything. Maybe like low tier 2 at best. But I do think with some refinement, it could actually be a pretty decent deck. And at the same time, we're kind of forgetting like there's a big card here that we all forgot about, which is Tri-Beam Impopulator, which, you know, it was clearly designed around 3 mana Flash of Brilliance, and Tri-Beam is a absurdly strong card when it's actually able to go off, and if it's paired with a Heimerdinger, it is the most insane value. So I am very, very excited to be trying out more Heimerdinger nonsense, and this change makes my little heart happy. I miss Heimer. Now we have Overgrown Snapvine. Goes from 4 to 5 power. Okay. Now look, I'm sure if you're one of the memers in this community, you are very happy to see this. There's not gonna be a deck around this. I really, really doubt it. But the one thing we can see here is that this card can now be tutored out with Babbling Bejurg. I don't know if you pair this card with Freylord, but maybe just because of that interaction, you will. So, I'm curious to see if anyone can actually make an Overgrown Snapvine deck work now that we can actually tutor the card safely. So yeah, that's going to be pretty fun to look up. And now we have Crackshot Corsair going from 1 health to 2 health. Not really much to say here. It's another 1-cost option for Bilgewater. It's kind of funny seeing Bilgewater get buffs of all regions. But it kind of just died to anything before, right? So now it can at least take somewhat of a hit. And it's okay. I really don't think this card's still going to see play. I think Jagged Butcher is just 10 times better. You can fit a lot better one drops in the aggro variant of Bilgewater. I don't think this card is exactly going to make it. It's an okay card. I just don't think it's good enough. Now we have an interesting shake. I actually really like this one. Jagged Taskmaster going down from 3 cost to 2 cost, 4 power to 3 power, 3 health to 2 health. So now it's a 2 mana 3/2. With the same effect as before, Plunder grants 1 cost allies everywhere, +1, 0. So, this card is interesting. There has been a pretty successful Fizz Draven deck on the ladder, even though it's not too common. It has been around. I played quite a bit of it, even made a video on that one myself. And I don't think this would be a bad card in that deck. I do think this card could actually see some play. I'm sure there's some type of strategy out there where this card is pretty decent. I mean, a 2 mana 3/2 with a pretty good upside, and all you need to do is Plunder. Sounds really easy. I mean, heck, you could just go, Crackshot Corsair. Right? So I don't know what else to really say about this. This one's just, it's a good change. I do think you're going to see probably more of this card in the future. I don't think it's bad at all. Yordle Grifter. Oh, man. This makes me so happy to see this card nerfed. So it goes from creating a warning shot and then allegiance nab to now just 1 text where it's allegiance, nab 1, and create a warning shot in hand. Look, I hate the nab text. It's not fun. I personally just hate when my opponent steals my cards and I have no idea what they have, and you could just lose the game off of playing a card that you have no idea your opponent has. That's never fun, right? But this does make it so you kind of have to dedicate the deck around it. I mean, a lot of times people were just playing the Yordle Grifter because it's a 4-mana 3/3, had a pretty decent body, and it created a warning shot for Riptide Rex on 8, and it made activating Riptide Rex very, very easy. But now you kind of need to dedicate him a bit more, because if you miss, well, you just played a 4-mana vanilla 3/3, and that's pretty awful. So I'm kind of curious to see if Grifter gets replaced with something else, or if people just, maybe just run Warning Shot instead. So it's going to be an interesting take to see how this goes in the future. There's going to be more dedicated Bilgewater builds just to guarantee the allegiance more. I do like the reasoning for it. They want allegiance cards are intended to be stronger cards than normal because you have to build a deck around it. And I agree with that sentiment. I feel like if you're building like almost a mono deck, the allegiance card should be pretty strong. Like Bannerman, for example. No one's really complaining about Bannerman being strong because, well, you have to build a deck around it. It's very linear. But here, I enjoy this. I do think this is a good philosophy to follow. It's a good change. And it's also another good change. I'm pretty sure Nick Play Games here is probably looking at this and Craigasming and loving every second of this. So now it's up to 5. It's now up to a 5/3 instead of being a 4/2. This same exact text, same cost. It was just very, very weak. Most of the time when you got off of Unspeakable Horror, it was just kind of a dead draw most of the time. You much rather get anything else. Now I think you'll be pretty happy to get this. I do think the extra health and toughness will make it so it won't die to just, anything like a Mystic Shot. And, it can survive an Avalanche. It can survive a lot of things that'll just deal 2 damage. So that's a really good change. And I think it's a card you could potentially main deck as your top end. Run 1 or 2 of these in your top end, and you'll be very happy. And, yeah, I mean, besides that, we got a few... we got a Gauntlet update. We got a multi-deck pick a man. I do think this is going to be towards the tournament mode that we're probably going to see in the future. We got a new lab. Expedition changes for those who care. And the big one is Cross Shard Friend Challenge. Now you can play anybody in any region. I think this plus the early format we're seeing here for Gauntlet is actually starting to lead towards more a tournament mode, a more competitive Legends of Runeterra moving forward. And I'm very excited to see how they implement this. It's going to be very young. We're going to see this slowly evolve. And I'm happy to see that they're actually taking the steps forward for this. But yeah, now... But yeah, that's going to be about it. Nothing too crazy this patch. It was a pretty small patch. But I do think it's a good patch, especially since this was clearly rolled out or clearly made prior to Call of the Mountain dropping. And I do like the changes. I think these were all very healthy changes. I'm very excited to see what Lee Sin does, and I'm very excited to see if a Heimerdinger is back. I mean, Heimerdinger is quite literally my favorite champion. I'm very, very excited to give him more of a try come tomorrow. As for the rest of the changes, I mean, Overgrown Snapvine, Crackshot, Corsair are kind of just memes. Jagged Taskmaster, I think, would fit in a pretty decent deck. I'm very excited to see what happens to that. And Yordle Grifter change is amazing. Cygnus is absolutely amazing too. I'm pretty happy about these changes. I don't think Nightfall needed a buff, but hey, I do think Cygnus was pretty weak. So yeah, that's going to be all for today, guys. If you do enjoy the video, please drop a like down below. And I'm curious to see what you guys' favorite change of this patch is. Please leave a comment down below. I'd love to talk to you guys down there. And that'll be all for today. And I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.